Evening, everybody, and welcome to the Community and Culture Committee meeting of Monday, the 10th of February 2025. I'll declare the meeting open at 6:02 p.m. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Next item on the agenda is apologies. Now, I've received apologies from Councillor Gao, Councillor Liu and Councillor Arthur, and I think everybody else is here by the looks of it. So could I please have a motion to accept the apologies and grant a leave of absence for those councillors? Moved by Councillor Allison and seconded by Councillor Mort. Okay, all those in favour? Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. We've had no request to attend the meeting via audio-visual link because everybody who's attending is here. The notice of live streaming of the meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available on Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room left open unless the meeting moves into a closed or confidential session according to Section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting does move into a closed or confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. Disclosures of interest. Do any councillors have any interest to declare tonight? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Moving on to public forum, we have no speakers registered for tonight's meeting. So the first item that we're dealing with is the confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting, which is COM 001-25, and that was the meeting of the Culture Committee meeting held on 9 December 20. Can I please have a mover? Moved by Councillor Allison and seconded by Councillor. Thank you. I'll call vote then. All those in favour? Anybody against? Okay, we'll declare that carried and move to our first committee report, which is COM 002-25, Quarterly Community Property Report, 1 October 24 to 31 December 20. And I do need to call for a mover in a second before here. So that's moved by Councillor Watt and seconded by Councillor Ski. Thank you. And now I will call on our Manager of City Life, Margaret Lee, and Margaret is going to please provide us with an.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, councillors. This report tonight is our quarterly community property report detailing from the 1st of October to the 31st of December last year any leases or licences that have been executed within the portfolio, and in that quarter there were nil by council. Still, the report gives an overview of the what is the community portfolio. So it's 65 community properties that are under a license, divided to various types, including halls, scout halls, things, gardens. The financial implications of the portfolio also report, and the full list of attachment. Any questions?
Thanks, Ms. Lee. Do councillors, do we have any questions?
Just a query. Is there ever much of a changeover between areas?
For the majority of the community, we are operating under expired licenses, or have been just a historic arrangement. So of the community work through the various community types and them out to EOI, expression of interest, to attract suitable and relevant and eligible rate those community properties. So for the, I suppose, to answer the question, for those properties where there have been existing community organisations operating, there are provisions under council's adopted license policy where range of criteria, tenure and level of benefit provided to the community. We could see the current operating state in that video, but we have seen with the past 12 months and the upcoming period out expressions seek from the community. And one of council's community is much more complicated. We used to put out an EOI to get, one interest and process they would be eligible and registered not for it, and they would be at that, but we found there's much more demand for that type of property for
Kind of work as a bit of a continuous space.
So under the new license policy, the standard duration is 5 years, and that gives certainty for the tenants. Previously, there was a mix of some were 10 years, some were 2 years plus 1 year plus 1 year, some were 3 year plus a 1 year option. And we just reviewed the majority of the lease licenses that had been in place, even if they were applied, is generally for 5 years. That gives that chance to establish themselves, provide their service, and then at the 5-year mark, we can go out to express it was that same organisation, whether there are other organisations that had emerged in that period, and they can also.
So Councillor Mott, that's answered your question. Okay, good. Councillors, Councillor Wang.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So I have a few questions as well. So first, there's some vacant. Sorry, there are some vacant venues not used. And the bottom, I think.
For you, Madam Chair, sorry. Councillor Wang, are there specific property types you'd like to raise?
Yeah, the 11, 12. Currently vacant.
Are you looking in the attachment?
Yeah. So the.
So, for example,
attachment one, yeah.
yeah, for example, yes, we do have a small number of properties that are current that at the time of as of the 31st of December was vacant. So some of those properties have during that period gone out to a process of expression of interest, and in Q3, the current quarter, those license agreements are currently being executed. So in next quarter, you'll see less properties with the word vacant next to it. Some of the buildings have yet to be built. For instance, the Peakers Park Hall, 7A Headley Street, good. So that is a hall which council in November for the tender right construction facility at Peakers Park. So that's one of the examples why that property.
So it's in the process.
Yep.
So the other one you said probably lots of Girls Guide.
Yep. So those other scout halls are currently occupied by Girl Guides or.
Yeah. So because a few months ago I've raised that those venues couldn't use. Yeah, also we have separated page and after that.
So essentially yes.
Okay. Cool. So I just want to confirm what mentioned. So all those, most of them, they're also on the expired list. That means it all right now, is it?
No. So you will see through the contract expiry date column that there is a lot of properties that are expired or currently expired. So as the portfolio has 65 properties, our community property team are working through the ones that are currently vacant, get them filled, then move towards the ones that are expired.
Okay, so timeline, can they apply now or
Well,
process?
Yeah, at the moment, those properties that have expired contract dates does not mean that they are not currently occupied. So they have people that they are tenanted, they are occupied by Girl Guides or Scouts, so they have the right to be in there until council does a review of all the Scout halls and on whether we go out into an expression of interest, and the Scouts and the Girl Guides have the opportunity put in an expression of interest, but as you would be aware, a lot of these facilities are in poor condition, and for council to conduct that EOI, either council would need money to bring those facilities up to a reasonable standard, or it would require the successful organisation to have the funds. So that becomes that is a process in itself.
Process to apply EOI, is it the public available?
Yes, that is under our community lease and license policy. It is open and transparent process that we advertise. We have a subscribers list of people who are currently actively looking for council community properties. So every time there is a vacancy that we advertise, but we also online as well.
Okay, they can put it online. Okay, so that's very good. The other day somebody's asking me. So essentially they can apply for this vacant one.
Yes.
This report is that once approved.
Pardon?
Is it going to be public? So venues are available.
Yes, this is currently on on council's website with all the minutes and agendas. So this is public information.
That's it, Council. That's all you've got.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Is that
For you, Madam Chair, even though it's currently not usable, it's still vacant, so we still are quite transparent in listing these facilities that are within council's community property.
Councillor Anzalotti.
Thank you. Just touching on what Councillor Weng was talking about in terms of the lease that's expired. There's some of these which was expired almost 12 months ago. So what's been the hold up in renewing those leases? Like I'm looking at sort of Olds Park Sports Club because I'm still learning with this Hurstville Oval that's expiring. That expired in April last year.
Through you, Madam Chair, you're forecasting my quarterly community property report for Q3. So those two will be on the list. They went out to expression of interest during Q2, but the process of assessing those applications and determining the successful applicant and then agreeing on those terms and putting it to those organisations, doing a rental subsidy assessment to agree on what the annual rent is and what the subsidy will be and what they will pay, and then having those legal documents drafted up for them to sign and then council's general manager to sign. That is quite a lengthy process. So those leases and licenses are currently being executed in Q.
Thanks, councillors. Any further questions? Okay, thanks, Ms. Lee, for all of that. Okay, well, it's been moved by Councillor Morton, seconded by Councillor Dmowski. So I'll just call for everybody to vote on it now. So all those in favour? Anybody against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. Thank you. And move on to the next item, which is COM 003-25, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Strategy for Adoption. And before we hear from our director, Christy Dodd, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Allison, I think that was there. Okay, thank you. And now I'll call on Christy Dodd to give us an overview of this report. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. So this strategy was out on public exhibition for 57 days throughout December and January to gather further feedback from the community. We had 8 submissions via our Your Say page, but there was 68 pieces of individual feedback received through traditional owners and our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee, and then also further feedback from staff in different directorates of council. So we themed that feedback into topics. Broadly, they were accessibility, cultural appropriateness, transparency, and strengthening council's commitment. And as a result of that, have made some adjustments to the strategy. Most of them are minor adjustments. There is a lot around the visual aesthetic of that. So making sure that council's commitment when it came to our monitoring section, it's now popped out more, so it's more transparent when you're reading the document. Same with some of our language around sorry business and using First Nations peoples of Australia as opposed to First Australians. So a lot of it is in the terminology. There is one new action that's been incorporated, which was action 3.5.3, which is in partnership, working in partnership with the surrounding region to promote local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander business networks to the Georges River community. That was requested to support, I guess, the economic growth and empower the Aboriginal community. So that's the only action that has been included. The rest of the changes are more about the terminology or the language that we've used. Some of the feedback that wasn't incorporated that was received was around changing suggestions on changing the artwork on the throughout the document, but also on the front page. But as that was commissioned as a piece of art, we won't be changing that. And it was the artist's expression through working with traditional knowledge holders to develop that piece of art. So that's not something that we'll be changing. And there was also suggestions around the cultural protocols guide. So feedback that we should have Bidigal language throughout the document, but this will be an action in the cultural protocols guide where it talks about the most appropriate types of language to include. In terms of another suggestion was around maps of the area, but this will come out as part of that document. So there is an action that we feel encompasses those sort of outcomes for the community. In terms of the focus areas, they remain the same. So culture, value, and empower. And council staff are looking forward to working with the community to implement this.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Councillors, do you have any questions on this? It is very good. I would just like to say, I'd like to give a shout out to our former council officer who's not with us anymore because they've moved to another local government area. Jodie had a lot of work, put a lot of work into this, and I think it's a really proud moment for us if we adopt this here tonight and then at the council meeting in a couple of weeks' time. It's been a little while coming. It's evolved over the years from what was originally the reconciliation action plan, which I think was put up by former councillor Tegg originally, and a few other bits and pieces. So I'm really happy with it. I think it's great. Well done, all involved, and thank you very much for all the work that you put into it. And it seems like it was well received by those it was consulted with, like the Aboriginal Advisory Committee and other groups in the submissions. And they seem like sort of fairly minor amendments, most of them, weren't they? Yeah, nothing major. So that's great. Okay, well done. Is there any other comments, councillors? Councillor Allison?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what were the objections to the artwork?
Through you, Madam Chair, it was more suggestions around instead of using there's a boomerang on it. to use something that was more of an ocean symbol. It was things like that. So minor changes to the actual visual, but because we've commissioned the artwork and we've accepted the artwork, we won't be looking to change that.
That's another thing, that art is subjective, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Okay, councillors, it's been moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Allison. If there's no further discussion, we'll put it to the meeting. All those in favour? Anybody against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. And as there's no further business on the agenda for tonight, I'll declare the meeting closed at 6:23 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming and for your input at the meeting tonight and for the meeting tonight. Thank you.